Welcome to the Family Podcast.
Hello.
Do you know the tagline, Stephanie?
Where family is everybody's business.
That's good. Boy, ain't that the truth.
Yes,
Family
it is. Too much of the truth. Yes.
I love that tagline.
I love it.
I love it because it's not only true, but it is universal. Every single family knows your business is everybody's business.
It's
in
true.
the family. So we're going to talk about today being raised in ministry and being raised in the church, and what Dad and I did or what we didn't do, and what you learned from it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All of it.
So I'm excited that you're here again.
I know. I'm excited I'm here too. Our last conversation was really solid.
It was really great. We talked about music and
the
writing together. And so now we're just going to talk about the truth, the ugly truth.
And we have to talk better. We have to talk stronger.
We've got to be honest here.
We have to be honest.
This is the truth-telling podcast.
Yes.
And I'm not going to get my feelings hurt.
Me either, okay?
Okay.
Me either.
You promise?
I promise you. Maybe. I think
All right.
I do.
I'm going to try. Lord Jesus, come
Gotta
quickly.
sip my tea.
No spirit of offense.
No spirit of offense.
Actually,
Spirit of offense.
When you talk about your childhood, sometimes it's easy as moms and dads. We don't remember things the way you remembered them. Mm-hmm. We remember them from this place of the decisions we made for you. Were they good? Were they bad?
Yeah.
Were they the right thing for you? Are you where you're your happiest? Did we sow the right seeds in your life? So this conversation, when you have them with your kids, some parents run from this conversation because they don't really want to talk to their adult children about their childhood. But we need to talk about it because we were very specific with you and your brother and your sisters. We followed in our parents' footsteps as to the way we raised you guys with the same conviction and really the same practices as far as church being the center, Jesus being the main thing. And I think we accomplished that. Were we perfect? No. Did we make mistakes? Yes. Did we leave y'all in the car?
Maybe.
Yes, we did.
Oh, yes.
I'm not going to lie.
Once.
Did you live?
Once. And yes, we did. And because somebody was there, thank God.
Because someone came to the rescue?
Yes.
But you survived.
Yes.
No parent is perfect. We all make mistakes.
Yes.
We drop our kids from time to time. But the intended goal for Dad and I was that you guys would love Jesus with all your heart. Like if we knew if we did that, we did our job.
Yeah.
The rest of it, we're not perfect, but we wanted to lead you to a relationship with Jesus Christ. So
yes.
I feel like we did that, and we're still on that path, and we're still on that road. But talk about a little bit your childhood, what it was like.
Sure.
Your memories of being raised with church being like such a huge part of your life.
Sure. A lot of goldfish. A lot of
goldfish.
Veggie tails.
A lot of communion elements.
A lot of communion elements. Okay. Eating the bread afterwards. Running
church
around.
Kids.
Yes. It was probably the best way to be raised. Because talk about universal.
Yeah.
When you meet another church kid, it's like, oh my God.
We live the same exact
you
life.
You live the exact same life.
That's true.
And you have the same jokes. You understand the same music. You understand the same sleeping patterns, because there really wasn't much of a sleeping pattern. It's the best way to be raised when you're a kid, and then you get older, and you start to form your own gifts or your own desires and other ideas and stuff, and they have to be surrendered to the vision that your parents have. And it is probably one of what I love about it is you're constantly dying to yourself.
Yeah.
And you're constantly growing. If you're in the healthy family, you're constantly talking to your family about it.
Right.
You're getting on the same page with your family. It's an adventurous road.
It is.
It really is. I feel
sure.
like I remember when I was like 17, I was hanging out with a lot of adults, and they were questioning why I would hang out with people older than me and not really people my age. And it was like, well, because I've seen a lot of life before, more than the average 17-year-old. And because we've come alongside you guys, and we watch people come in and out of the church, and you hear of so many different stories and walks of life, and we see it right there in front of us.
Yeah.
So
you learn a lot.
You learn
so
a lot
about people, behaviors, patterns. What people do right, what they do wrong. You do learn a lot. And I want you to answer this question, though. I want you to answer this honestly. Did you ever feel like when you were younger, was there ever a time that you felt like you really wish we weren't at church so much, like that you could do things outside of church more? Did you ever struggle with that?
Saturday, when we had the Saturday night service, yes. I remember when I was young and people would hang out on Saturday night, but I had to go to church.
Yeah.
For sure, my immaturity was I was just really young at the time, and I think I was probably in high school, middle school, and my friends would invite me over Saturday night, but I would have to go to church because I was serving. But that started to dissipate when I was finding my love for the church and my own niche in a ministry somewhere.
Yeah.
That started to go away because I was growing a vision and ideas and a passion for the ministry I was in. Yeah. So I was looking more forward to showing up and executing that new series we had planned or that new song we had rehearsed. I was more excited about that than hanging out with friends. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, for a brief time.
Yeah.
But I think the beautiful thing was you guys, you didn't just push church. You didn't just push the religion of church. You pushed the love of church.
Right.
And how the love that you can have for the people in a ministry, it's the best job you can take.
Yeah, it's true.
The best.
It's a privilege.
It's a privilege.
It's a privilege for sure.
Because people come into the church giving their all to the church. When you meet the right people, they are there with their hearts wide open.
That's true.
Looking for instruction, some of them come from really broken past. Some of them are new Christians. Some of them are old Christians and they just need recovery in church. And you have the honor of stepping into their life and helping them. So there's you need to be prepared and you need to be careful and trained in doing so. But to know that somebody looks at you and says, listen, I've had somebody say, I've prayed for God to confirm it with my parents, with my leaders, and in you. And if you don't feel peace in this, then I'm not going to make that move.
Right.
And some people say that that's church abuse. But if you come from a healthy church...
Yeah, and that's key right there. Church.
If you come from a healthy church that really listens to the Holy Spirit and they love their people...
That's right.
...more than they love themselves and more than they love their new series...
Right.
...then that's one of the most beautiful things in the world.
That's right.
Because the relationship that's formed there... Anyways, we can keep diving into that, but I was taught to love the people and to love the church because there's so much benefit in loving people.
That's right.
Genuinely loving them. Yeah. To get into the trenches with them, to fight with them, to fight for them, to give to them, to come alongside them, to marry them, to be there when they have their first baby, to be there when
them in the hospital, all of that.
It's the most beautiful career anybody could ever get in.
Right. And I can say that when y'all were younger and we were really new in the church, we'd started the church when Lauren, who's 23 now, but I found out I was pregnant with her when we started Metro Life Church.
Yeah.
And so we had you and your brother, and you were a handful. You didn't like the nursery. You didn't like the nursery workers. You didn't like to go to church. And you were a baby, so we didn't listen to you, obviously. Christopher loved it because it was so social, and he's such a social person.
Yeah.
Just being around people was important. But you were a lot tougher.
Yeah.
And then a year later, you're 18 months old, and now I've got a brand new baby. And then a year later, I have another brand new baby.
Crazy.
So we had 4 kids so fast. And I can remember, I'll never forget this, there was a man in the church whose kids were like 12 and 13. It was a boy and a girl. And I remember him telling us this story about the son, and he did something that it just blew my mind that this kid at 13 would already do. And he wasn't coming saying, hey, my son did this crazy thing. Will you pray for him? I want to get him in the youth group. He was laughing about it like, oh, that's what kids do. And I remember I had all you guys, you were babies, but I knew what I knew. I knew that being in church was all that Dad and I were going to enforce.
There's no other option.
No other options. We wanted you to do good in school, but not at the risk of missing church. You were going to be in church, but the voices that come against parents and based also on the culture that you're part of. And I remember saying to him one time in the lobby, I said, you just need to make sure that he's in church every Sunday and every Wednesday night. And he laughed at me.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll never forget it because it just shook me. He said, you're going to see when those babies grow up, it's not going to be as easy to put them in the car and get them to church. You're going to have to lighten up on that.
Wow.
And I just remember driving home thinking, am I going to have to lighten up on this? Am I going to, is forcing them to church, making them to come to church, going to force them to rebel? And I remember saying to your dad, because your dad has always been more decisive and stronger than me in those moments, he said, no way, don't you even listen to that.
Yeah.
No way. Well, fast forward, and, that young man has had a lot of difficulty.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to that place with Christopher when he was about 12, and he started that. I want to go out with my friends, and I want to do this, I want to do that. And we put our foot down and said, you're not doing it. You're going to be at church with us. And if you're bored at church, better you're bored at church with me than bored with somebody else that I don't know that can get you into trouble.
Yes.
And we just didn't facilitate a mindset to any of you guys that said the world's important too.
Yes.
We just never did that. No, the church is the most valuable asset in your life because that is the incubator for an incredible relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes. And that's the most valuable thing you can contribute to other people.
Yeah.
I think that I always look at the prophet Samuel. It's probably one of my favorite stories because I really do, I know what Samuel experienced. He was raised in the temple. His mom dropped him off, left him there when he was 3 years old. And he was raised in the temple.
No, it's incredible.
In the temple of the Lord, that was his home, and he slept there.
Yeah.
And
that's an incredible picture.
Yes, he slept in the temple. He had a bed there. And one note that I take from his story of when God called on him, the first 2 times he ran to the priest, his master. And what that shows is he was trained that before hearing the voice of God, you're going to hear the voice of the master, the voice of the priest. That before you start to learn what it's like for you to hear God on your own, you're going to learn what it's like to listen and to obey the voice of your parent and your priest and your leader.
That's so good, Steph.
You don't know the voice of God yet. Yeah. God hasn't called on you yet. And it even says in those days, God's voice was dry. He wasn't speaking as much as he was in the past. Yeah. So you're not going to learn God's voice yet until you learn how to obey your parents' voice. And what it did was it taught me not to submit to it taught me to submit to my parents, but you taught me the art of submission.
Yeah.
The art of obeying.
Right.
And obedience is way better than sacrifice. No. It's such a treasured virtue that is not common nowadays.
No, it's not.
And once Samuel learned to obey the voice of his master, then the master said, okay, he's going to call on you one more time, and then you position yourself and you say, here I am, Lord. What do you need from me? And then it opened up that door to a relationship with the Lord. But he was in the house of God. He was in the temple. He was there, sleeping, tending to the temple. And then even then, the own high priest kids weren't serving the temple appropriately. And they were breaking the rituals. They were disobeying. They were angering the Lord. But Samuel remained so humble because he remained obedient to the master's voice and to God's voice.
Yeah.
And I think people can look at that and because you have pastors' kids like that.
Yes, you do.
Where they're both raised in the church, but one is rebelling and one's really, really dedicated. And people think, oh, well, the common denominator is you forced them to go to church.
Right, exactly,
that's the problem.
Exactly.
It's like, no. The lesson that Samuel learned that those other boys did not learn was he was obedient.
Yeah.
And he learned how to obey his parents, and then, which in turn opened the door for him to obey the voice of God. Those other 2 kids, they never learned obedience.
No.
And the high priest never enforced obedience.
Right.
He never pushed them to. He got later punished for that. Anyways, I can keep talking about it, but you can't blame constantly being at church as the problem.
No.
The problem is they didn't learn how to obey.
That's right.
And then how is God going to entrust his voice and commands to kids who can't even trust their parents or obey their parents?
That's right. And wow, if there was an applause, if there was an audience, we would all be like, woo! That is so powerful, Stephanie, because you have learned at a young age the importance of not being set up before kings too soon. In other words, we are not man pleasers. We are God pleasers.
Yes.
We don't only obey man, but we obey God, and in turn we are honoring and obeying man because we're serving the Lord.
Yeah.
So we're not looking, and we taught you guys what we live by. Yeah. We're not looking for promotion to come from the world, from the flesh, from our jobs, or from the church with a microphone in our hand. We're not, we hopefully we taught you guys that you never, ever would allow the thought of, what about me? When's it going to be my turn?
Yeah.
We never let that stay alive in you, even as a seed.
Yeah.
We let you guys know, even before we knew the propensity and the plan of the enemy was to use that, what about me?
Yes.
Because we have this opportunity. Our parents are the pastors.
Yes, yes.
And they're in charge and we can do anything. We came at that proactively.
Yes, you did.
Even before it was ever a temptation. So we would warn you guys, listen, the temptation will be that you'll have these thoughts. Cast that down. That ain't never going to happen here.
Amen.
You're going to lead by example.
Amen.
And it started back, we were talking about this on the way to church today.
Yes.
We were talking about how even in the very, very beginning when y'all were babies and we were in the hotel, we rented a hotel to have our services in, and we had 2 large hotel rooms that we had adjoining.
Crazy.
And Maury and David, that were our kids ministry directors, thank you Jesus, they're still with us all these years later. They were phenomenal with kids ministry at the time, and they would turn those hotel rooms into a kids ministry.
Crazy.
And it was so awesome what they did. But you would try to escape to be with mom and dad, and how they would run down the hallway and grab you and bring you back in and say, no, you have to be in the nursery. And so we were talking about how easy it would have been for us, me and dad, to just put you in church. Well, they want to be with us. And the poor kids, they're away from us so much. But dad would say, how are we leading by example when we do that? If we don't put our kids in the nursery, what are we saying about our nursery?
Yeah.
That it's not even worthy enough for our own children? No,
So
we lead
true.
by example. Our kids will be in the nursery, and our children will be in the toddler room.
Yes.
Now, you bit other babies bit you, but that's just being church kids.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You grew up, we never changed that formula.
No.
You never got too big for your britches or too good for an environment, nor did we give in to feeling sorry for you because you were here so much.
Yeah.
And when you were here a lot, and we did feel bad about it, we would create other ways to make that more palatable for you.
Yeah.
And we're even helping some of our staff members do the same thing with their children.
Yep.
Because they've seen what that process has brought.
Yes.
For young adult people that love the Lord and this is the big thing, love the church.
Love the church.
Don't hate the church.
Yeah.
Aren't bitter at the church.
Yeah.
Aren't mad, wounded, hurt.
Yeah.
I love Jesus, but I don't ever want to go back to church again.
Yeah.
How often do we hear that stuff?
Yeah. And I think that the trick was we kept coming back to the relationship thing that relationship with God, the relationship with others, and then relationship with the world. But the first is relationship with God. Rarely have I had dad or you tell me, we have to make this decision for the church people.
Right.
What are they going to say? Rarely has that been a discussion.
No.
It's once or twice. And it's because legit we were going to upset people, But it's always come back to, Steph, what about your own relationship with the Lord?
Right. Personal.
Personal.
Yes.
I remember I was 15, 14, struggling with that pride thing. And I was worship leader. And dad straight up told me, oh, well, that Lucifer, he was a worshiper, and his pride is what brought him down from heaven, and, that's the devil. And he compared me to Lucifer.
He did.
Because
I remember that.
it was never the church people are going to get mad if you act like that. That's going to look bad to the church people. That's not what it was. No. It was you're going to embarrass yourself for sure. And we don't care if you embarrass yourself, but your relationship with the Lord, that's on you.
Right.
You're going to have to stand before the Lord and say that was in your heart, and you never addressed it.
No.
So it came down to my relationship with God. And then it turned into, okay, then I have to get this right with you. And it in turn gets it right with my relationship with the church people, which then in turn gets it right with my relationship with people not in the church, in the world.
That's right.
So it was always about us and God. It was never about appearances or the mask. There was never a mask we put on. That wasn't it.
No, because if you've hurt God, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
People will absorb that and say, wow, we've all made mistakes, and, come here, we've all made mistakes, and we'll get through this together. But especially if you're in a loving church community.
Yeah.
So we never felt like if our kids messed up publicly that there'd be this huge shame. We didn't care about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't want you hurting
Yeah.
others or yourself, but that's not what drove us.
No.
What drove Dad and I, and still drives us today, with two of you either on your way to get married or married, you and your brother, that we are believing God for our grandchildren to be raised with that same exact understanding.
Amen.
That we're not trying to protect you from the negativity or the shame of people.
No.
What we want to keep you from doing is sinning or hurting the heart of God.
Yes.
And when Dad said that to you, I remember we were in the kitchen and you were talking about your worship list or something. And again, you were 16. And he just went there. Well, you know, Stephanie, Lucifer had the same problem. And and I remember thinking, that's too much, Steve.
But again, traumatized.
It was
Traumatized. And
we will whack you with the word.
Yes. I'll never forget it. Ever.
Well, do you remember what he said to Lauren when she was going through a struggle?
Oh my God.
We didn't. That's the thing about Dad. He never waited for things to manifest into fruit. He would see it at seed. He'd ask God, "Show me the seed."
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. We had like a family meeting, and we were all talking about things and attitudes in the house and expectations. And when he went in, we'll let her tell the story.
Oh yeah.
But I remember sitting there going, "That's not her.
Yeah.
That's not her." And he said, "There's a seed of rebellion."
Seed of rebellion.
And she was broken. She was like, "Dad, I'm not rebellious. I honor, I serve." He said, "I didn't say you were rebellious." He said, "I said there's a seed that's trying to take root." Well, here's the reality. Duh.
Yeah.
Of course there is.
We all got it.
Everybody has a seed of rebellion that the enemy is desperate to say, where can I plant this?
And recognize it.
And then where can I water it?
Yeah.
And where can it grow? And in our children, if we have this mentality, Stephanie, and you know where Dad and I stand on this, if our children are somehow little messiahs, that they can do no wrong, that are always perfect, in us doubting their perfection doesn't mean we don't believe in our children.
Yeah.
We believe in our children. God's given us incredible people to raise and to grow into wonderful human beings. But the devil has never changed, and he's never gonna.
Amen.
So what we have to do as pastors and parents is say this: the devil wouldn't be much of a devil if he did not try to throw us all off our game and make our knees buckle by planting a seed unknowingly in the heart of one of our children. And we didn't see it. And then somehow it got watered and we didn't see it. It got the flame was fanned and we didn't see it. And parents, we get busy. We get busy, but we also fall prey. We've all done it. To not my kids. Oh no, my kids are good. And I'll tell you that is not good language to use a lot.
Yes.
To say it simply. It's always good to say about your children, and I can say this, I'm not an expert, but I can say this from raising 4 and watching a lot of kids get raised. Sitting on the front row of watching it all happen. And that's how we learn. You know, we learn from other people's mistakes and the things they did well. And we said, we're going to do that. But it's not a good practice to keep saying that, because what happens is the enemy can quickly turn that into pride.
Totally. They're too young to even recognize if the enemy is changing that.
And we as parents, it's our like our trophy to know we did well. So the enemy can work in our hearts, and we don't even know it. We're fully unaware that that's happening. And it's better to say, yes, we're doing our part. We are raising our kids to love the Lord, but the enemy's tricky.
Yes, he is.
And I love those moms that aren't afraid to take the door off the hinges. Even of the best kids, to go in and search the drawers. I love those moms. I heard a mom tell me, Stephanie, several years ago, and my kids were little, and I'm like, I love you. I never had to do this. But it helped me keep my spirit open. She said, I saw my son, something was changing in him. He was about 13, which is always a big age for boys. And the Lord woke me up and said, go check his drawer. Well, that particular night, he was at a friend's house. She got up and she said, I had no reason to check his drawers. I do his laundry. I organize his drawers. And she went in and found stuff that let her know. But the Lord led her. Now, if she had this mentality, not my son's perfect, or not my daughter, no, they would never. It sets a trap for the enemy every time.
It does. And if to the pastor's kids, recognize that the devil will try to get at you.
Yeah.
He's trying to get at you. He's trying to get at the legacy. He's trying to get at the gifts that are getting passed down to you. Yes, you will experience tremendous blessing, and the devil hates that.
That's right.
Recognize it. Be even more cautious.
Be aware.
Be even more aware, and serve even more than the regular volunteer because of that.
That's right.
Earn the respect of the people that are closest to you even more than all the other ones because of that.
That's right.
I think that every single pastor's kid, we know who the church inner circle is. We know it.
Right.
There's the outer circle, the people that come in and out. If they leave, it's not that big of a deal. But we know the inner circle.
Yeah.
I think what pastors' kids don't realize is that inner circle, they know us.
Yeah.
They've watched us grow up.
That's right.
They know us more than we know ourselves. They've seen us. They probably visited us at the hospital when we were born.
Probably.
Their kids were raised with our kids. They know us. And they are looking, they're watching us grow up. Those are the people you want to serve first.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want to serve first. Because I have been to churches where the pastor's kids were not respected by the inner circle.
No, it's true.
And in turn, years later, everybody started to not see. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw, wow, okay, then they don't really earn our respect. They're not a respectable person. But it started in that inner circle. Can we keep on going? It started in that inner circle. And if a pastor's kid, you know exactly those people that in your life that work the hardest for you, that work the hardest for your parents, work the hardest for your church. If you don't serve them first, serve your parents and then serve them,
right,
then who are you? Are you just trying to serve the people?
That's
are
right.
you just trying to serve the stage?
That's right.
That's going to fall on you real quick.
That's right.
The stage can be taken from you from one day to the next, but those people are there for life.
Absolutely.
They are there for life. And if you can get their respect, if you can get a relationship with them, then you have a family that'll be with you through every single season.
And you know, the truth of that is that applies not only to pastors' kids, but it also applies to all kids that come to church. We've got so many single moms that bring their kids, and they want what they see us have.
Yeah.
And the thing that we work at is to let them understand this is not just for pastors' kids.
Yes.
This is going to
Amen.
really bless a lot of pastors' kids if you're listening to this or watching this. I know it will. And we can talk more about that. But to also include the parents that are saying, I'm going to take you at your word, Steve and Mary, and I'm going to do what you did, and we're not going to miss church. Our kids are going to know that church is priority, kids' church is priority, and then they're going to stay in kids' ministry. And when we get tired of forcing them, we're just going to push even harder because we're not giving into them. We want the fruit that we see on your life. Well, let me just tell you, the way you get that fruit is you don't quit.
Yeah.
You don't get weary in well-doing. You continue. The pattern doesn't change. The process never changes. Do not compromise.
Yes.
That needs to be the prize you put your eye on, where you are focusing on your children and their relationship with the Lord is the main thing. It's what you're seeking for. And I will say that it's usually around that 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age that the system can start to break down. Kids aren't interested anymore. They get a little bored. They might want to, they start becoming a little bit more turned away by the world.
Yeah.
And when that happens to you, and it will, listen, push in harder, lean in harder. No. Because you'll set it in concrete. And if you do that through that season, as you guys know, it gets easier after that age. It just becomes more fluid because then they become leaders in the church. They start serving. The inner circle that you talked about sees you as parents push through the hard season, and they're all over that saying, how can we help you?
They do. And I think another thing is what's so beautiful is sort of changing it a little bit, but I always tell people whenever I'm dismissing the crowd and Dad preaches an incredible message, I always feel like they just got this secondhand wisdom that I got first.
Right.
My dad and you preached to us before he preached to the people. And they're just hearing wisdom I've heard a week ago. And it's really quite beautiful to see that the church is going to see my dad act. He's going to say the wisdom on the stage that he said to us at home.
No, it's true.
And he's preached to us. He's spoken to us. And not preached, we've had conversations. The conversation at home about relationship with Jesus, not corny, not let's speak in tongues and gather and everybody, let's hear from the Lord.
No.
Raw, honest conversations about how are you feeling with you and God? Are you bitter? Are you mad? Are you mad at me?
Right.
Let's work this out right now. That's done more for my salvation than anything.
Right.
And what it's done is it's only made me more passionate to come and serve the church the way that my dad serves our home.
That's awesome.
And serve the worship team the way that my mom serves our home.
Wow. So Stephanie, we always like to end our podcast with a random question that you have no idea I'm going to ask you.
Yes.
I think we would all like to know, what was your most embarrassing worship moment or moment on stage?
I was doing the welcome right after worship. Oh. So we had just finished worship. We had crashed out and everybody was clapping. And now I had to transition into the mix and into the sermon. So everybody was standing and everyone was happy and clapping. And I said, gosh, this church is just so incredible, isn't it? We're so happy you came and joined our service today. This church, we believe in 3 things: relationship, relationship, relationship. And we are such a socialist church here. And we really socialize. We love to socialize. We're so socialist here. And let's continue on with our service. Let's have a great day. Let's go, church. And everybody, one person, no claps.
I know.
No claps, because this is Miami, so they all just came from a socialist country. So it was so embarrassing. And somebody said, you just called our church socialist. And I was like, but isn't it? And I had no idea the difference between socializing and socialist. So that was the most embarrassing moment on the stage. That's me.
It is always a pleasure talking to you. You just made my day.
Oh, so fun, Mom.
I feel like we did good, and yes. I'm a good mom, I guess.
You're a great mom. You're the best.
Well, I'll be a grandma next. Let's see how I do.
Yes, you'll be a good one.
It's great talking to you.
I love you, Mom.